Welcome to another In Wheel Time podcast, a 30-minute mini version of the In Wheel Time car show that airs live every Saturday morning, 8 to 11 a.m. Central.
Howdy.
Howdy.
Live from Studio A. It's the In Wheel Time car talk show. Coming up, John Vincent, senior automotive correspondent for U.S. News and World Report with the best EVs for road trips. Conrad will have the In Wheel Time Car Clinic. I'll bring you this week's auto news. Howdy. Along with Mike out of this world, Mars. King Conrad DeLong, ever popular and noted expert in all things automotive.
What did we just call him? Mr. Excitement?
No, that would be you.
Oh.
Ladies and gentlemen, Jeff Zekin. And we always need more Jeff Zekin.
That's right.
I'm just plain old Don Armstrong, and thank you very much for joining us on this Saturday, our return from our 2-week vacation. I'll look at that in more detail next year because I didn't need to be that. 1 week would have been fine, but 2 didn't have to be.
Well, it was based on your flights, getting in and out of town and going out.
These days, that makes a lot of difference.
That and the end Chippewa County Intergalactic Airport.
Because nobody goes to Detroit on purpose.
Well,
you had to.
Yes, because the
connecting flight.
Right. The flight to go to Chippewa County is once a day, as you can imagine.
Whether you need it or not.
So there was that. And I had a great time. Thank you, David Ainsley.
So we're driving
in a Cessna 172.
No. Thank you, David Ainsley, for a wonderful time at the cottage up there on Lake Huron. Absolutely stunning.
He sent some really cool pictures, too.
Very nice. All right. John Vincent is with the U.S. U.S. News and World Report. I did not. But he's the senior auto correspondent for the publication. And he's done a feature on the best EVs for road trips in 2023 and how to road trip an EV. Good morning, John. It's good to see you.
Good morning. Thank you for having me on.
Well, you bet, and it's a pleasure. Let me ask this: how did it go? Did it go okay? Did you run out of juice? Did you find charging stations? Was it a nightmare? Tell me.
You know, I've done several road trips with EVs, and the experience has been mixed. It is still a challenge if you don't properly plan.
That's a nice way to say it.
That's a very good way to say it. That's the true reporter in him, and we can tell that it wasn't all negative. There were some high points in it, obviously, and we're going to get into that. So let's start with the best EVs for road trips. Every manufacturer, it seems now, finally, making at least one EV, if not a dozen.
Almost everyone except for Stellantis, which still doesn't have one on the market. But pretty much everybody else does.
And your bell ringer, your number one choice for EV road trips is, drum roll, please.
EV6.
The EV6.
Yep.
You know, it's funny you should say that because I had that car a month ago.
Something like that.
And I will tell you, I don't get all of the cars in the press fleet, but that one stands out among all of the others. And it clearly stands out for you as your best for road trips. But I mean, the look of it, the speed of it, everything about that car is like, as a novice as I am at EVs, that is the car that stands out to me, the current car that's on the market.
So the one you had was probably the EV6 GT, which is the quickest of the bunch.
Yep.
That is not necessarily the one you want for a road trip.
Okay, tell me
why.
why.
The one you want for a road trip is the rear-wheel drive single motor, which has the greatest range. It's still a very quick car compared to a comparable gas model, but by giving up that top speed, you get a whole lot more range.
Interesting you should say that because I only pressed that button one time. It's right on the steering wheel. And man, I'll tell you what, it will lay you back in the seat.
The go button.
The go button. But I will tell you that I didn't really need to do that. Now, granted, if I were some wild, well, I mean, I was going to say wild and crazy guy, but I am kind of
Young boy.
They're making fun of me. Help. But I will tell you that it had plenty of power. But you were saying just with the ability to have more power, it still has less range than the car you drove.
Correct. You're carrying a bigger battery pack and you're carrying an extra motor. So weight is what kills your range. And carrying that extra weight around all the time, hurts your range on a road trip.
Oh.
Also think about your road trip. Your car's probably more heavily loaded than it is on a weekday for your weekday commute.
Yep.
So you're not getting the range you get when you're just driving back and forth to work.
And what kind of range between charging stations, what was the longest time that you could go? And what did the manufacturer say? Were they even close?
They're getting closer. They're still not. The range that the manufacturer tells you is the optimal range. It's the one that comes up in EPA testing. Just like a gas car, you very rarely hit those estimates. But with an EV6, you can comfortably go 240, 250 in a car that has a 300-mile range. And you don't really want to go much longer than that because depending on where you are in the country and how close the charging stations are together,
Right.
The charging stations networks are not as robust or reliable as they need to be. How's that for
I love
reliable,
that.
yeah.
You're
Nice way.
such a good reporter.
So you always want to plan to have another charging station within range if that first charging station you plan on working doesn't work.
Or if there's
good
a line,
point, good
or if
point.
there's a line down the freeway to get into it.
Yeah, that usually doesn't happen unless it's a Tesla charging station, but Tesla charging stations are generally fantastic. They're the most reliable out there.
And where did you road trip? Where were
I
you?
road trip around the Northwest, Oregon, Washington.
Okay. And that's an area that's more infrastructure built for EVs.
We do have a relatively dense infrastructure for EVs. Not quite like California, but pretty darn good.
Okay, so all is
Not good enough.
All is good on the car. And did you have any problems charging, flat tires, any other problems on your road trip?
No flat tires. The biggest problem was reliable charging infrastructure. Getting to that charger and finding that it doesn't work. That, it won't connect to the car. The credit card reader doesn't work. It doesn't want to charge at the speed that it should be charging. So instead of taking 20 minutes there, it wants an hour. Things like that just get in the way.
How often did that happen?
It happens far more often than you want it to happen.
Yeah.
So it's
I'd say probably a third of the time.
a lot
Wow.
of aggravation, not necessarily stuff that would stop you,
Correct.
just aggravate you on the way.
Aggravate you and can be overcome with good planning.
And the vehicle onboard nav system will lead you to those charging stations. Is that correct?
In most of the EVs, yes, they will. I actually use a app on my phone called PlugShare, which tells me a lot more information than the onboard nav systems do.
As far as whether or not the EV system's functioning?
Correct. Its availability, whether it's functioning, whether it's even in a safe area. You'll get user reports saying that, yeah, don't stop at this one unless you want to get mugged. Because remember, with an EV charging station, if you want to disconnect, you have to get out of your car
Yep.
to disconnect.
True.
The other question that I had for you, did you have a certain provider for a charging station that you preferred to use over another? I've got an EV Go card only because my Whole Foods nearby has an EV charging station. I rarely use it unless I've got an EV and don't have the home plug here. But I found that it's easy to use as long as it's connected to your credit card, which was a real pain because I hadn't used it long enough, and I had gotten another
Dropped you.
credit card.
Yeah.
No, it didn't drop me, but it had an old card.
Oh.
So then I had to call and get them the new card. And then, okay, yes, we've got you. Now, that was a whole 20-minute process on the phone with EVgo to get them the new credit card.
And you're not even charging while you're doing
no,
that.
they won't. You can't charge.
You can't charge just off a regular credit card.
There's no credit card slot. Did you deal with that, John?
Of course. Happened to me before. You need to remember that we are in the Model T phase of the modern EV era. Back when cars were new, where did you get gas? You had to find a pharmacy.
That's true.
Oh,
I forgot that. Yes.
Yeah, Don was there.
I was there. I was not.
He was serving behind the sauce.
That's right.
So we're going through a lot of growing pains. And, there's a technology that Ford uses that's fantastic. It's called plug and charge, where you plug the EV into the charging station and they talk to one another. And the Ford Pass app knows your credit card information, seamlessly links up. You don't have to talk to the charging network at all. And all the billing's handled through the Ford Pass app. It's great. And it seems to work.
But
John,
you didn't have a Ford.
I did not have a Ford. Well, I've driven the Fords.
No, I know, but I mean, on the road trip, you drove the EV6,
Right.
but the Ford charging station was good to go with
The Ford plug-in charge technology that works with Electrify America charging stations.
Gotcha. Okay.
So, John, what do you see about the there's a Tesla's built in its infrastructure, and Ford's kind of partnered with them on that. But now GM and a couple others have said, we're going to go build our own. And so, and it's not going to work with Tesla, which means it's not going to work with Ford.
It is actually going to work with the Tesla.
Well, then I misread it.
Yeah, it will have both what's called a NACS adapter or NACS plug, North American Charging Standard plug, and the CCS plug that everybody uses except Tesla right now. So it's going to be a whole lot easier to do a road trip in an EV in 2024 and even easier in 2025 because we're rolling out a much more common technology that will allow Teslas to charge everywhere without an adapter and everybody else to charge at Tesla superchargers if they want to.
Well, that'll make a big difference to have some sort of standardization.
Right.
What do you see as far as, that's the pretty bold statement that a lot more in 2024, double the amount? How many do you think is going to be out there in 2024?
I think they'd like to have double the amount in 2024. And with the common standard, even if you don't install another charging station, you have access to double the number because you have access to both networks.
Gotcha. Well, part of my issue, and it has always been, is with a gasoline motor, I can get 30 miles per gallon, depending, obviously, on the engine, the car, that sort of stuff. But let's just say 30 miles per gallon. Okay? Great. I go down here to the 7-Eleven. I fill it up. Takes me, if it's empty, takes me maximum 5 minutes. Wash the windows and do all that stuff. Whereas with the EV, what's the minimum time that you got to charge? 30 minutes for an 80% charge?
So in a vehicle like the EV6 or a Hyundai Ioniq 5 and Ioniq 6, Genesis GV60, you're talking 10% of the battery to 90% or 80% of the battery in 18 minutes.
It's not bad.
That's not bad at all.
That's a lot better.
That's better, but it's still not 5 minutes.
But, your range is 250, 300 miles. Do you take that many road trips where you're not going to want to stop for 15 minutes every 250 to 300 miles?
No, of course not. And that makes perfect sense. No, I got that. But for instance, like here, let's just use the trip from Houston, Texas to Dallas, Texas, 250 miles. There is a beautiful Buc-ee's. I don't know whether you're familiar with that or not, but there's a beautiful Buc-ee's about halfway.
Madisonville.
And they don't have any charging stations that I'm aware of yet at that Buc-ee's. I'm sure that they're coming, but
they will.
I'm sorry?
They will.
Yeah, I know they will.
We have a lot of charging stations.
Yes, but So if there's not a charging station there's probably one or two somewhere in the Madisonville area, which is where that Buc-ee's is located. But until then, am I going to make it? Am I going to make it from Houston to Dallas on that 250-mile charge that, only go 55 miles an hour, don't touch the accelerator pedal, don't brake, don't do anything, hold your breath, and you'll make it the 250 miles.
Hold my beer.
And don't use your air conditioner heater.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, that too.
Go.
Yeah. So you have all of that stuff in your head, and that's your experience on the road too.
Yep. Like I said, we're in the Model T phase of this. Everything is going to get better.
Yeah. Well, that's a perfect analogy. So tell me where we can read your article in what edition of the U.S. News and World Report.
You just go to usnews.com and the auto section, and you'll find it there.
Well, it has been a real pleasure to talk to you, and we thank you very much for joining us today. Hey, next article that you write, let's hear from you. We want to put you on the show and talk to you about it.
Absolutely. I have new stuff coming out every day.
Awesome.
Hey, John, I want to apologize. I was sitting here looking at you, and I'm going, I know this man. And when you said Northwest, ding, 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 it all came together there. So
we've known each other for a while.
I know. I just, it just didn't register.
Way to go, Mars.
There you go, buddy.
Hey, I'm getting to be almost as old as Conrad.
Or me.
Mars just took his Prevagen and remembered something.
He's got you on a Christmas card list now.
Yeah, he remembered to put you on there after 5 years.
Yeah.
John, thanks again, my friends. Good to see you. We appreciate it. We'll talk soon. Yep.
Looking forward to speaking again.
Thanks. John Vincent, Senior
cool.
Auto Correspondent, U.S. News. Love that.
Nice guy. Great guy.
Yeah.
He's
He's one of us. Ussens.
He may not know this or talk about it or write about it, but are there aftermarket upgrades for an electric vehicle?
Yes.
You said that with a very strong
I've talked to other people about them.
Well, you could upgrade the battery in your
Right.
Tesla.
When you buy it.
No.
No. After you buy it.
After you buy
Yeah.
it, just
See,
put a
that's what I'm
bigger
talking
battery
about.
pack in it.
Stuff like that.
Open up that wallet.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, seriously, open up that wallet, turn yourself on your head, and shake all the money out of your pocket. to
Pretty
do
much. Yeah. But you can.
it. Yep. Wheels and tires,
Well, that's-
all
that's
those things. But
Really a
yeah,
normal
but they
thing.
have electric upgrades for the system, but they are ungodly expensive.
Yeah.
I'll bet.
Well, just think of it. I mean, you have to go in and you have to change all this stuff in the computer.
True.
And Tesla
Or
does all of that with
multiple
your battery
computers.
purchase. But, ooh.
And then what happens if you do it and Tesla comes in and says, you ain't doing that
Well,
on my
Tesla-
car, and they override it.
Tesla is looking in your car all the time.
That's what
It's
I'm
like
saying.
General Motors, nobody wants to admit it, but General Motors is looking in your car through OnStar.
It's Mary
and has
Barrett's
been
looking
for
at you
years. Yeah, Mary Barrett, she gets $29 million a year
to look at you.
to look at inside your car.
I wanted to push that button so bad.
$29 million a year she gets to destroy a corporation
I
like
just
General
poked the
Motors.
bear.
Did you see how much General Motors made
Put the
in
key
the
in
last
and
quarter?
start him.
$9 billion. What?
So they need to give
And
her
how
a raise.
much are you charging
Yeah,
for
she
that
needs a
pickup
raise.
truck?
Yeah.
She needs a
Yikes.
raise.
All right, let's move on. Time now for Conrad's Car Clinic as
He's
he gets a
working
little
too
water
hard.
there. What are we on the Car Clinic today?
Well,
I saw something about power adders.
Power adders. Yeah, we're today I'm going to talk about blowers versus turbochargers. There's engines again are air pumps, and how much air can you get in? How much fuel can you throw in it? How big a bang can you make in the middle? And that bang is sometimes gasoline, sometimes nitromethane. But you need to have oxygen to create that explosion. So how do we add more air, oxygenated air to the engine? So today I'm going to talk about blowers and turbochargers. You can also add more oxygen through nitrous oxide, but I'm not going to talk about that as a power adder. So this is kind of the typical blower most people think of. It's a root style blower. Now this is probably a GMC or a 871, 2, 3,
It says Tesla on it.
671 blower
That's
fitting
the-
on top of a small block Chevy.
Yeah. That was the Bible back then.
Oh yeah, and then this blower is belt driven, so there's a pulley on the crankshaft that drives that pulley on the front of the blower, and that pulley, that drive system costs horsepower to drive it. Now, in a top fuel car that's putting out 12,000 horsepower, driving that blower may cost 1,000 horsepower to create, but at 12,000 horsepower, that's
you can't get all that power to the ground.
Yeah, a viable trade-off.
Right.
So any supercharger requires horsepower to drive. So there's kind of a give and take on that that belt-driven compressor. And then they have bolt-on compressors for LS motors as well, which are very common. GM does it in the LSA and the LT4. Now, most of the blowers that we're looking at are what are called screw blowers. So there's two counter-rotating screws that compress the air in the middle and force the air into the engine. And that's how they increase the amount of oxygen going into the engine. The system diagram of a belt-driven blower that's direct drive, here's the LS motor bolt-on, is the direct drive blower on the engine. There's also some that aren't screw type blowers. These are other blowers that look like a half a turbocharger that are also belt driven. So they use what, for lack of a better way to say it, what the insides of a hair dryer. And inside that hair dryer, you take the air in the middle of the device, you compress it and throw it out the edge of the device. And that's how you get the compressed air to go into the engine. And the benefit of turbocharging versus supercharging is turbocharging, they use the energy of the exhaust blowing out of the engine to turn one turbine wheel, and that's connected to the compressor wheel. So we're not burning energy through a belt drive. You're using the energy that's expelled by the engine through the exhaust system to turn the turbo. So again, it's kind of like a hair dryer. Sorry, Jeff, I didn't mean to say hair dryer to you. And
I carry a comb with me still. You know why? I can't part with it.
I can't part with it. So again, turbochargers, you have to have some kind of a boost controller. Same with superchargers. There has to be a way to manage how much boost is going in the engine and control it, because you can put so much in there, things go boom.
Yeah.
Which is, turbo or top fuelers go boom quite a bit.
Yes.
And that's when, especially in like the funny cars, you see the engine, the body come apart as it's doing. Now, some of the superchargers are actually connected directly to the crankshaft, and they use a drive system of gears to overdrive and underdrive the impeller of the supercharger. So you can go with big overdrives. And you can do the overdrive and underdrive with the pulley systems as well. Bigger pulley on the crankshaft, smaller pulley on the compressor can make it create more boost faster. So really, again, turbochargers, if you broke it down, look very much like a hair dryer. And on the exhaust side, it's going in the bottom or going in the side, and then the exhaust is streamed out through the middle. On the compression side, it's drawn in from the middle, and the boost is blown out through the side of it. So that's how they work. Super simple. Turbos, you're seeing more and more manufacturers are using turbocharging because it's free energy versus supercharging. But there is a lot of supercharging out there as well. But the free energy of the exhaust system creating the boost is easier than the belt-driven.
Some sad news.
Uh-oh.
Performance auto entrepreneur Eli Reeves Callaway died July the 11th after sustaining injuries in a fall. The Callaway Cars and CEO was 75 years old. Callaway founded Callaway Cars in 77 in his garage in Old Lyme, Connecticut. Former Formula V champion driver, Callaway learned engine building, chassis tuning, and component fabrication while dreaming of becoming a professional race car driver. After running out of funds to keep racing, he put those skills to work building prototype turbocharger systems on a car borrowed from a driving school where he worked. The company's work for Corvette earned it a specialty vehicle manufacturer designation and led a world record in 1989 when Callaway Cars' twin-turbo Corvette hit 254.76 miles per hour, setting a production car top speed record that wasn't beaten until 2010.
Wow.
Isn't that something?
Yeah.
Reeves Callaway, I remember early on that I was always in awe of this guy because he was a Corvette guy.
How old was the gentleman?
75.
Wow.
Yeah. in a fall.
So don't fall, Don.
Yeah, thank you very much. By the way, if you're into new cars, Toyota's next generation Land Cruiser SUV set to be unveiled next week. We'll borrow some front styling cues from the 80s Land Cruisers. Toyota, with the cherry red Land Cruiser FJ62 used as a backdrop prop for comparison, released another image this past Wednesday previewing the Land Cruiser with rectangular headlights flanking an egg crate grille. Ought to be interesting to see. The Toyota badge is front and center in the grille. Blocky, chunky front fenders are similar to Toyota's latest big trucks, the
Sounds
Tundra
real aerodynamic to me.
and the Sequoia. It's a Land Cruiser. It's an off-road vehicle.
You look like a GMC or something.
Yeah. So anyway, we're going to wrap up today's show right after a quick break. Stay with us here on the In Wheel Time Car Talk Show.
Everyone at the Tailpipes and Tacos Cruise In at the Lupi Tortilla Tex-Mex in Katy, thank you for participating in the best cruise in around and look forward to seeing you again. You'll hear about the next cruise in date right here on In Wheel Time. Next time you're in the West Houston Energy Corridor area, be sure and stop in at the original Lupi Tortilla Tex-Mex at I-10 and Highway 6 or the Katy location on the Grand Parkway at Kingsland Boulevard. When passing through Beaumont or College Station, stop in and have Lupi's award-winning beef fajitas and frozen margaritas. There's always a celebration at Lupi Tortilla. Lupi Tortilla founder Stan Holt and his wife Sheila are winning racers on the NHRA drag racing circuit and have a collection of hot rods and classics that everyone appreciates. Look for them at the next Tailpipes and Tacos Cruise In. The date will be announced soon and will once again be held at the Lupi Tortilla Tex-Mex on 99 and Kingsland Boulevard, just south of I-10 and Katy. We'll give you all the details right here on the In Wheel Time Car Talk Show and online. Donations benefit God's Garage. We'll see you then. You own a car you love. Well, why not let Gulf Coast Auto Shield protect it? Houstonian John Gray invites you to his state-of-the-art facility to introduce you to his specialist team of auto enthusiasts. We promise you'll be impressed. Whether you're looking to massage your original paint to a like-new appearance, apply a ceramic coating, install a paint protection film, nano-ceramic window tint, or new windshield protection called ExoShield, Gulf Coast Auto Shield is where Houston's car people go. Curbed your wheels? Instead of buying new, why not have them repaired? How about a professionally installed radar detector? Gulf Coast Auto Shield does that too. Get a peek inside the shop and look at the services offered by getting online and heading to gcautoshield.com. Better yet, stop by their facility at 11275 South Sam Houston Tollway, just south of the Southwest Freeway, and get a personal tour. Gulf Coast Auto Shield is your place to go for all things exterior. Call them today, 832-930-5655 or gcautoshield.com. The award-winning In Wheel Time Car Talk Show is available on the most popular podcast channels out there in 30-minute episodes. We realize our 3-hour live show can be difficult to catch in its entirety, so now you can listen every day to a convenient, fresh 30-minute episode. Check us out on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, Amazon Music, and Audible, along with a dozen more. In Wheel Time has the most informative automotive guest interviews and new car reviews, along with popular features including Conrad's Car Clinic and This Week in Auto History, along with automotive news headlines. Our live broadcast airs every Saturday, 8 to 11 Central on InWheelTime.com, the iHeart app, and on YouTube. Be sure to say hello when we're broadcasting from the Tailpipes and Tacos Cruise In, Autorama, and the Houston Auto Show, among others. Now, it's easier than ever to hear about all things automotive all week long. You're invited to join fellow car enthusiasts in becoming part of the ever-growing In Wheel Time Car Talk family. Don't forget those 30-minute podcast episodes on your favorite podcast channel.
Well, that's a wrap for this week's In Wheel Time Car Talk Show. When you're online, follow us on Facebook. Give us a like, if you would. Tell your friends about us and share our junk, please. We promise to keep you posted on all things automotive all week long, including new car reviews, upcoming events, cruise-ins, racing events, and other informative and entertaining car and truck goodies, and promise not to load up your feed with a bunch of junk. Hey, you can find the In Wheel Time Car Talk Show 24/7 on the iHeartRadio app and our live video stream on Facebook, YouTube, and on InWheelTime.com every Saturday, 8 to 11 Central Time. Daily 30-minute podcasts are available on the podcast channel you use. The In Wheel Time chief engineer and vacation guru is David Ainsley. Our marketing, advertising advisor, and video technical director is We Need More, Jeff Zekin.
Yeah, we do.
For booking agent and Bluetooth hound dog, Mike Mars. Mr. Know-It-All, his royalty, King Conrad DeLong. I'm Don Armstrong. Hey, here's an invitation for you to join us next week for our hot August edition of the In Wheel Time Car Talk Show, Saturday, August 5th, 2023, on all of our In Wheel Time Car Talk outlets, right here on the Smoke and Mirrors Network, 8 to 11 a.m. Central Time. Have a great weekend, stay cool, and so long for now.
That's it for this podcast episode of the In Wheel Time Car Show. I'm Don Armstrong, inviting you to join us for our live show every Saturday morning, 8 to 11 a.m. Central on Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, and our InWheelTime.com website. Podcasts are available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, iHeart Podcast, Podcast Addict, TuneIn, Pandora, and Amazon Music. Keep listening, and we'll see you soon.